Welcome to week 3 of the Yoga4Health 10-week program, a social prescribing program commissioned by the NHS and now being delivered all over the UK and in some countries abroad. In this class, we're going to continue with our theme of grounding and of inhaling up from the ground and exhaling back down to the ground. And if you remember, the reason we focus on grounding is to give you that sense of stability and foundation and full embodiment in the physical experience of yoga practice. And we find that when you become more fully embodied, you really feel and sense your body and its connection to the ground, then it also helps to steady the mind as well as improving posture and helping with your general physical health. So we're going to use a breathing technique. We were breathing up and down from the ground, but this week you're going to learn a technique called ocean breath, and this is to help you lengthen the exhale. So it'll be your normal inhale in through the nose, unless the nose is blocked, and then a long exhale, creating the ocean breath sound. And it'll be inhale up from the ground and exhale, long ocean breath back down to the ground. So what is ocean breath? Ocean breath is a slight sighing sound in the throat. So if you've ever sighed or whispered like this, then you will be able to do this breath. So everybody can do it. It's a really easy practice. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. So what we're going to do now is practice the technique. So simply breathe in through your nose and then sigh the breath out through your mouth. And have a go at making that sighing sound just a little bit longer than the inhale. We're not creating any sound on the inhale, just your usual inhale through the nose and then a longer sigh out through the mouth. Now, when we're doing this technique, if you run into any problems, there are some videos explaining it on the Yoga and Healthcare Alliance website, but a little bit of practice is what you need. So we're going to refine that practice now so that we are doing all our breathing in and out through the nose. So this time you're going to inhale through the nose, and then as you exhale, halfway through the sigh through the mouth, softly close the mouth. And the exhale will automatically transfer to the nose, and you should continue to make the sighing sound, but it will sound a little bit quieter. So something like this. And again, inhale nose. Half the exhale, the sighing exhale through the mouth, and the second half through the nose only. And then just have a couple of goes of inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose, but continuing to make that soft sighing sound. And if the sound disappears, just come back to sighing the breath out of the mouth and closing the mouth again. And that will be a way to get that sound back. It's coming from the throat, the sound, rather than from the nostrils. So before we just sit and do a little bit of that practice as a breathing practice to begin the class, just a little bit of theory as to why we are doing this. So the long exhale is going to help you relax the nervous system, and that has a lot of knock-on effects, measurable effects in the physiology of the body in terms of reducing stress hormones. And recent research is linking downgrading the amount of stress and what's called the sympathetic stress response in the body also has a beneficial effect on immune function. But the particular technique that we're using of the long exhale also has an effect on the vagus nerve, which is a really important nerve of the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, the relaxing part of the nervous system. And this is interesting to us because what actually happens, which many of us are unaware of, is that your heart speeds up slightly when you breathe in, and it slows down slightly during your exhale. And that's because during the exhale, this vagus nerve is stimulated and it signals to the heart, tell the heart to slow down. If you have good heart rate variability, which means that your heart is effectively speeding up and slowing down with the breath, that is an indicator of good health. So we're doing this long exhale to support heart rate variability and to just lengthen that little bit of opportunity that the body and the heart have to slow down, because the exhale is a little more controlled and a little longer than usual. So we'll come into our breathing practice now. If you'd like to close your eyes and just take a moment to notice exactly how you feel in your body. Notice the quality of your breath, which may have already changed. And notice the state of your mind, whether your mind is running fast, running slow, feels a little bit stressed, or whether you already feel quite relaxed and settled and steady in your mind. And just make a little resolution to look after yourself during the class. Remember, we don't do anything that causes discomfort or pain. We talked about in the first session which patients, which people this program was designed for, and that if you have any doubts about your medical conditions or your suitability for the program, to please consult your doctor beforehand. So beginning our breathing now, just breathing in normally in through the nose, feeling yourself breathing up from the ground, up through the soles of the feet, right up through the ankles, the lower legs, the knees, the thighs, the hips, the abdomen, right up to the chest, to the lungs. And each time you exhale, taking the breath down in the opposite direction, from the chest and the lungs, down through the body, through the hips, through the legs, the knees, the ankles, the feet, back down to the ground. Inhaling up from the ground, and then long ocean breath, creating that soft sighing sound in your throat as you exhale through the nose back down to the ground. Remember, any blockages in the nose, then do breathe in and out through the mouth. Nose breathing is what we're aiming for, but it's not always possible. Inhaling up from the ground, exhaling long ocean breath back down to the ground. And you're going to do a few more of those breaths on your own, just tuning in to this breathing practice, to the inhale up from the ground, the ocean breath, long exhale back down to the ground. And now we're going to start our practice. So bring the palms together in front of the heart, and as you breathe in, draw the breath up from the ground, take the arms apart, and exhale, bring the palms together, and exhale, ocean breath back down to the ground. Inhale up from the ground, arms wide, exhale, ocean breath down to the ground, palms touch. And one more in your own time. And then release the arms out to the side and breathing in, draw the breath up from the ground as the palms rise up. Turn the palms and exhale, ocean breath down to the ground. Turn the palms, inhale, ocean breath up from the ground. Exhale, ocean breath, back down to the ground. One more in your own time, allowing this arm movement to simply reflect the inhale and the exhale. And then give the arms a little shake. We're going to mobilize the shoulders now by shrugging. So breathing in, taking the shoulders forwards and up. Breathing out, taking the shoulders back and down. Still inhaling and exhaling ocean breath back down to the ground. And then taking the right arm up for our side stretch. Exhaling, coming into the stretch. Inhaling, coming up. And exhaling, ocean breath down to the ground. Lower the arm, and the same on the left side. Keep being aware of your feet and making sure your feet are flat on the floor or flat on a yoga block as you do these initial chair practices. It will really help to enhance that sense of connection to the ground, connection to the earth. And when we're in the chair, the connection of the hips and the back of the thighs to the chair is an equally important sense of grounding. And then one more side stretch, exhaling, and this time breathing in to come up, and then long ocean breath, exhale, coming back into a slightly deeper stretch on that right side. Inhale up, exhale down, and the same on the left side. Inhale, ocean breath, exhale, lean to the right, inhale up, exhale, ocean breath, back down to the ground, and stretch the left side a little more deeply. Give the arms a shake. Take the palms out, fingertips onto the tops of the shoulders, and great big elbow circles with your breath. Maintaining this inhale up from the ground and exhale, long ocean breath back down to the ground. And just one circle in the other direction. Now we're going to do our neck stretch. Take the hand onto the back of the head and let the chin come forwards. Remember, there's no forcing here with the hand, it's just guiding the head and then rotating, if it's safe to do so, to look towards the left thigh. Inhale back to center, bring the head up, exhale, release. And we'll do the same on the other side. Exhale, head forward, turning the head, this time looking towards the right thigh. Now we're going to move on into our twist, palms together in front of the heart as the inhale, and then exhale, ocean breath, back down to the ground, turn the shoulders, release the hands down. Take a couple of breaths here, breathing up from the ground through the nose, long ocean breath, back down to the ground through the nose. On the next inhale, turn the head the opposite way to the shoulders just to get that contrary twist, and maintain the same up from the ground and down to the ground breathing pattern. And we'll come back to center on an inhale, and exhale, do exactly the same twist to the other side. Inhale, up from the ground. Exhale, long ocean breath, back down to the ground to deepen the twist. Working with your own breath. And on the next inhale, turning the head into the center of the room. And exhale, long ocean breath, back down to the ground. And then inhaling, coming back to center. Place the hands on the thighs, come into a forward fold just to release from those twisting movements in the spine. And then our final seated pose is the back bend. So reaching back with the arms, holding the sides of the chair perhaps, focusing on opening the heart and drawing the shoulders back and doing very little with the neck. Inhale, up from the ground. Exhale, long ocean breath, back down to the ground. And then releasing into a forward fold, use the hands on the thighs. And we'll take a couple of breaths here, breathing still with the ocean breath down to the ground and allowing the lower back to really feel like it's getting a good stretch and a lot of space from this forward movement. And now we're coming into the next phase of the practice. You can either stay in a chair or come down onto the mat. Just settle yourself in the new position. And then bending the knees if you're lying on the mat. And everyone placing the palms on the abdomen and just feeling the breath there. And as you exhale, drawing the tummy muscles back towards the spine. As you breathe in, let the abdomen move outwards a little bit. So we're connecting with a very deep, relaxed breath, but also the strength of our core muscles. And then breathing in, as we're seeing in the video, arms are floating up into the air or overhead. Softness in the hands, elbows and shoulders. And allowing your hand movement to reflect the breath. Inhaling up from the ground. Long ocean breath back down to the ground. And just finishing off that ocean breath with that sense of drawing in, of zipping up through the core of the body, the center of the body. Breathe at your own rate and let the breath lead the movement as much as you can. At the end of the next exhale, just counterpose that. If you're on the mat, hug the knees in over the chest, take a little rock from side to side. So now we're going to either circle the upper body, if you're sitting in a chair, or use the arms to circle the knees, keeping the knees and feet together so that you're circling around the lower back and the back of the pelvis. Still inhaling up from the floor, exhale, ocean breath, back down to the floor. If you do this without holding the legs, it's a little bit stronger. It will add more strength to your core muscles and your abdominal muscles. So just do that if you're able to, but it's not necessary if that's a little bit too strong. So now we're going to take hold of the right shin, holding the right leg, but you could hold the back of the thigh here or use a belt, and rotating the ankle. And then doing the same to mobilize the left ankle, rotating in both directions and pointing and flexing the foot. So now we're going to hold on to the right leg and just deepen the drawing in of the thigh towards the chest on an exhale, and let the arm straighten, let the knee move away from the body on the inhale phase. You can make this a little bit stronger if you're on the mat by sliding the left leg straight. That will open the hips a little bit more. and then pause for a moment between sides, and then we're going to do exactly the same on the left leg. Inhale up from the ground, exhale ocean breath back down to the ground. And notice how the connection to the ground has changed now if you're lying on the mat. A lot more through the back of the pelvis and the back of the head, and less with the feet. And do support the back of the head if you're lying down to make sure that the forehead is at least as high as the chin, or even a little bit higher. So now we're doing a little bit of a strengthener for the abdominal muscles with the knees in. As you exhale, if you're lying on the mat, just feel like you're drawing the thighs in with your tummy muscles and lifting the tailbone. And if you're in a chair, you're exhaling and drawing up the muscles at the base of the pelvis. That's your pelvic floor. And then to open the hips, you can either do both hips at the same time if you're lying on the mat, circling the knees wide for inhale, half a circle, and exhale for the other half. And if you're in a chair, we do exactly the same movement, but one leg at a time, and circling in both directions. Inhale up from the ground, long ocean breath, exhale back down to the ground. For our next practice, legs are straight if you're on the mat, and you're going to breathe in, take the arms overhead and have a long stretch, and really activate the whole of the body as you stretch. Tense all the muscles you need to, and when you exhale and bring the arms back, let the body go soft and relax. So we want that contrast between inhale, tension and engagement of the muscles, and exhale, switching muscles off. And it's exactly the same in the chair, but it's just more the upper body that is being stretched on the inhale and relaxing with your long ocean breath down to the ground as you breathe out. And then coming into a held version of this stretch. So when your arms next go overhead, just keep breathing and stretching. This is a little more tiring if you're in a chair, so you might not want to hold for the full 5 breaths, and come into lowered arms and a softening posture. And if you're lying on the mat, this will be comfortable to stretch for 5 breaths, really engaging the muscles, feeling the back arching a little, and then on an exhale releasing the arms down and letting the body go completely soft, like a mini relaxation for 5 breaths, but still inhaling up from the ground through the back of the body. Exhale, ocean breath back down to the ground. So now we're coming into another twist. If you're lying on the mat, bend the knees, and as you exhale, take the knees one way, roll the head the other way. And you can see we're doing the same with the chair version. Inhale to center, head and hands together. Exhale, shoulders go one way, head goes the other way. Inhaling up from the ground, making the spine tall. Exhale, long ocean breath back down to the ground as you release into the twist. So if you're lying on the mat, it's a little safer practice because the spine is not in gravity, there's no compression on the discs. So if you can bring the knees and feet together to make the twist a little stronger, And we'll even show a variation in a moment where the knees come in over the chest to get your deepest twist. But you need to do this in a way that keeps both shoulders firmly releasing down to the ground, down to the mat beneath you. And then rock the knees in between sides if you're lying on the mat and come into the other side. So this is the held twist. And if you're in a chair, you can go sideways on the chair and use the back of the chair as a anchor point, and that will slightly deepen the twist. Just be careful not to overdo it with the arms and lever the spine around further than your range of motion. In the held twist, use the breath, particularly the long exhale, to deepen your experience of release into this twisting movement. And then either hugging the knees in or bowing forwards over the thighs if you're in a chair to counterpose the effects of that twisting posture and rebalance the body. So now we're on to cross crawling. It's going to be opposite arm and leg. So if you're lying on the mat with the knees bent and you're well coordinated, you can go straight into right arm, left arm, right leg, with those movements following the breath. And we're showing here in the chair option, you can do the arms first and then the legs, and then bring the two together. So inhaling right arm and left leg, exhaling lower, inhale left arm and right leg, exhale lower. Inhaling up from the ground, long ocean breath, back down to the ground. So a little hip flexor strengthener here. That's a muscle that attaches on the lower back and on the top of the thigh. So some variations being shown here, either working with a very bent knee, or if you're able to and are strong enough, working all the way towards a straight leg. The fingertips are beneath the lower back to make sure that the lower back is not moving as you raise and lower the leg. If the lower back is moving, that means there isn't enough abdominal or core strength there to support a straight leg lift, and that would mean you'd need to bend the knee and just do the more gentle option to strengthen this hip flexor muscle. And when you're finished, hugging the knees in or taking a little bow forward if you are working in a chair. The next practice is to do some pelvic tilting. So if you're in a chair, as you exhale, feel as if you are moving the tailbone away from you. The top of the pelvis comes forward as you inhale and goes backwards as you exhale. If you're lying on the mat with the knees bent, inhale, the top of the pelvis lifts slightly, and as you exhale it moves down and the tailbone lengthens away from you. And then remove anything from under the back of the head, and we'll progress this movement to lifting up into a back bend if you're on the mat. So just a little lift with each breath, feet to hip width apart. Inhale, lift the pelvis, breathing up from the ground. Exhale, roll the spine down as you ocean breath down to the ground. And the movement in the chair is exactly the same. Breathing in, just sliding the hands from the knees towards the hips, opening the chest, drawing back the shoulders. Exhale, coming back to a neutral spine. And then if you're on the mat, drawing the knees in, rocking from side to side. We can do that once more, but we're going to hold the pose this time. So keep the tummy muscles drawn in as you lift the pelvis. Feel that connection to the earth through the feet, the shoulders, the back of the head a little. And try to breathe steadily, breathing in through the nose, filling the chest, exhaling, long ocean breath back down to the ground. Whenever you need to release, if you're in a chair, just fold forward over the thighs or roll the spine down and draw the knees in over the chest if you are on the mat. So we're going to use a belt now to stretch the back of the legs. The belt's around the right foot. As we breathe in, the knee bends. Long ocean breath, straightening the leg and using that additional length of your exhale to deepen the experience of this stretch to the muscles of the back of the thigh, which are called the hamstrings and which are commonly tight in many of us due to a lot of chair sitting. So try not to go to war with these muscles. Instead, use the tool of your long ocean breath exhale back down to the ground to encourage that length in the back of the leg and encouraging that muscle to soften. So after the fifth extension, we're now in a static stretch. We're just holding a comfortable stretch. We're not feeling that the back of that right leg is developing too much tension. And when you've completed 5 breaths here, bend the knee, release, and then just pause for a moment between sides. Notice the difference in sensation between the right leg and the left leg. So now we're going to do the left leg in exactly the same way. Inhale, knee bent, exhale, ocean breath, back down to the ground, stretch the left thigh muscle. Really important to have plenty of belt between you and the foot. Wrap the belt once around the hands so it's not too much tension in the wrists, and make sure the back of the head is well supported and that the shoulders remain relaxed and back and down as you do this practice. And in the same way, moving into the static phase of the stretch. It is a little more demanding holding the leg like this in the chair, so you don't have to do the full 5 breaths if that is too much for you. And at the end of the 5th breath or thereabouts, releasing and again noticing the sensation in the right and left leg. It's building up that ability to notice sensations in the body and receive that biofeedback. So we're going to come into another hip opener now called Thread the Needle. And the easy version here is just to release the knee out to the side. If you're in a chair, support the foot on a block. You can do the same on the floor, and you should do that if you have any knee problems. If you can, the final position is to bring the foot onto the right foot onto the left thigh. And if your hips are open enough, you can even lift that left foot off the mat. Now what we do here is to flex the toes of the right foot, so pull them back towards the right knee, and that engages muscles around the knee joint to protect it while we're using the bent leg as a lever to open the hip. So having a look at the left side now, on the block or on the leg with the foot slid away to make it easier if the hips are tight, and then bringing the foot in if the hips are more open, and lifting the leg if you have enough hip flexibility. And the term threading the needle comes from that last movement where if the knee is coming over the chest, you can reach and wrap the hands around the thigh, threading your hand through the eye of the needle created by the legs. Just release and rock. And we're coming into cat now. We're using a chair here with the knees padded. You can also do it with the hands on the floor, as we'll see in a moment. And if you're remaining in a chair, doing exactly the same movement, just a more fluid movement than the back bend we did earlier, curling the chin in and extending. If you're able to stand but need the support of a chair, then you can do the cat in the way shown here on the right. And if you can't, not to worry. So we're going to come now into a lunge. Those who are working on the mat can do this using the chair, or you could have the foot on the floor and the left knee on the floor with some padding. If you're remaining in the chair, just take the left thigh out to the side, hands on the leading leg, and then drawing the shoulders back, keeping the chest open. For those able to come up to standing and either do the lunge on the mat or using the chair in this way, we're showing the chair because it's particularly effective at preventing weight going through the knee joint, and you get a really good position to both open the hips and stretch out that hip flexor muscle we mentioned earlier, which gets very tight and short if you're doing a lot of chair sitting. So we're moving down onto the mat if you are working from the mat and lying on the front, and we're coming into a back bend called the Sphinx Pose. So resting on the forearms with the elbows in front of the shoulders. And for this one, if you're in a chair, we do this pose dynamically because it would be tiring to hold the arms in the air. So it's exactly the same, but breathing into that position, opening the spine, drawing the shoulders back, forearms facing forwards. If you're able to keep the front of the hips on the mat and you can bring the elbows under the shoulders, that's a deeper back bend if you're working on the mat. Keep inhaling up from the ground, long ocean breath, exhale, back down to the ground. Between these back strengthening practices, you can push back into this position, pose of the child. And if you normally work in a chair but could get down onto the mat with the support of a chair, here's a way of doing Sphinx using the seat of the chair as a support platform for your forearms. So to strengthen the back, we're breathing in and using the back muscles to lift the elbows off the mat, either from this kneeling position with the hands on the chair, or if you're fully on the mat, take the arms wide away from the body. That is to remove the temptation to lift yourself up by pushing into the arms, whereas what we want you to do is really use those back muscles. And if you're in a chair, you can lean forward and then lift the spine up to a flat back, again by using the back muscles rather than the arms. Inhale up from the ground, long ocean breath, back down to the ground. And then take a little counter pose to release the body. Back bends are not our usual pattern of movement, so it can be a little bit challenging when we do some in a row like this. So to strengthen the glutes, if you're in a chair, take the leg out to the side, and this time you are tensing and relaxing the muscles around the outside of the pelvis as you breathe in and relaxing them as you breathe out. And if you're lying on your front, you're breathing in to lift the straight leg, keeping the front of the pelvis on the mat, and exhaling, lowering the leg, one leg at a time. Inhale up from the ground, exhale, long ocean breath, back down to the ground. There's another variation on the chair to get a little bit more work into those glutes. And you can see the knees are padded, and again the seat of the chair offers the support for the upper body. So when you've done round about 3 on each leg, 3 to 5, release into a resting pose. Our next practice is the downward dog. Inhale, tuck the toes. Exhale, head down, hips up. Inhale, stretch the spine, keep the knees bent, and exhale, release the knees back down again. And do that another 2 or 3 times if you're able to. When working in the chair, we do both arms and one leg to create the same shape in the body. And in a moment, if you're working on the mat, you're going to be holding this downward dog if it's appropriate. If you don't have wrist or shoulder issues or any medical reason like cardiovascular disease or glaucoma, where you shouldn't be in an inverted posture. If you're in any of those, you'll be doing a modified practice. Sometimes if you're well medicated, you can do this dynamic version of the dog safely, but take your doctor's advice if you have any doubt. Downward dog is a real earth connection pose, feeling that connection to the ground through the hands, through the feet, as you inhale and exhale ocean breath back down to the ground. If you do have wrist or shoulder issues, you can take away a lot of the weight from the upper body by using the chair. Just make sure the chair is fixed, leaning against the wall or otherwise secure, so that it's not going to move as you use it. And to take all weight off the knees, use the back of the chair, as is being shown here on the right. So in the held position now, where you can work a little bit more on introducing the stretch in the legs, but downward dog is primarily about lengthening the spine, engaging through the abdominal muscles and finding a nice steady breath and reducing tension in the shoulders as you do the stretch. And then take a resting pose, either standing or pose of the child. So making a transition for those who are working on standing, and we'll begin with a little bit of wrist and shoulder releases. There's a few options here, doing the circling of the palms in 2 directions, the rolling of the shoulders, and then we're going to reconnect to a very full breath in a moment, once we've got rid of all the residue of the weight bearing work we just did. So breathing in, sweeping the arms out to the side, rolling the shoulders open, and breathing out, drawing the palms down together at the center of the heart. And we're going to work the feet a little bit here. So as you breathe in, breathing up from the ground, lifting the toes, and as you exhale, long ocean breath down to the ground, relax the toes. Then next inhale, let the heels come up, ocean breath down to the ground and release. Doing exactly the same foot movement whether you're standing or in a chair. Obviously if you're able to stand, it's going to work much more directly on your sense of balance. Now we're doing Sun Salutations. Breathe in, open the heart. Long ocean breath, exhale, hands to thighs, fold forwards. Inhale up from the ground, flatten the back. Exhale, long ocean breath, release forwards. Inhale, come up, flat back, open the heart. Exhale, ocean breath, palms together. Inhale, reach up. Ocean breath, exhale down to the ground, sway to the side. Inhale to center, long ocean breath, down to the ground, hands to heart. Inhale, reach up. Ocean breath. Exhale, stretch the other side. Inhale, reach up. Long ocean breath down to the ground, hands to heart. So this is week 3 of doing these sun salutations, and it's much better if you can just follow your own breath now, with that added value of experiencing the long ocean breath down to the ground on exhale, which is going to give you just a little more time in some of the exhale positions, some of the stretches of this sequence. Remember, you can do as little as 1, 2 or 3 repetitions of these sun salutations, or you can do up to 5. So you're just going to work out your own pace now, following the sequence, looking at the screen if you need to remember what to do, otherwise just following your breath. Inhaling up from the ground, exhale, long ocean breath, breathing back down to the ground. Inhale, up from the ground, long ocean breath, exhale, back down to the ground. The growing familiarity of this sequence means that you'll soon begin to transcend the simple physicality of the movement, and you'll really begin to connect to breath-led movement, particularly now that you have that additional tool to control your exhale and create that soft sighing sound of ocean breath. If you've done as many rounds as you want to, you're just going to take a few moments of rest, notice your breath, continue with the breathing practice, and really focus on the sense of grounding and connection between the feet, and if you're sitting, the feet, the thighs and the hips to the ground. Some of you, and for many of you, as you progress through the 10 weeks and your breath gets longer and longer, this movement will slow down further and really begin to feel a bit like meditation in movement. So we're just completing the final Sun Salutation, taking that pause, and then coming into our Warrior One pose. So if you're in a chair, right leg stays forward, left foot is turned out, or you can use the back of the chair for support. Working on the mat, breathing in, palms together in front of the heart, legs straight. And as you inhale, allowing that right knee to lunge, and at the same time drawing the heart open and drawing the shoulders back and down. Inhale, up from the ground. Exhale, ocean breath, back down to the ground. Remember, we're not turning out the back foot, hardly at all, to ensure that the stretch remains in the front of the left thigh when we've got the right leg forwards. At the end of the fifth Warrior One, changing to the other side, leading with the left leg now. So this is an important stretch to continue to develop the ability of the spine to extend into backbend. And again, it's the second or third go at lengthening the hip flexor muscles that normally get quite short in lots of people if you're having to do a lot of chair sitting. The end of the fifth Warrior One, we're going to transition into Warrior Two. Stepping the feet a little wider apart. And Warrior Two is much more about opening the hips. And how far you take the legs apart is going to depend a lot on your hip opening and the amount of stretch you have in the muscles of your inner thigh. So don't turn the right foot out and the right thigh out any more than your hip will allow. And that ensures that when you breathe in and lunge, bend that right knee, that the knee is going exactly the same direction as the foot. So about 70 degrees is usually about right. Arms extending, shoulders releasing as you breathe in, up from the ground, turning the head. Exhale, ocean breath, long ocean breath, back down to the ground. Find the space in the heart, the shoulders, and the hips. As you breathe in and out of this posture, breathing up and down from the ground. Just take a moment between sides and then coming onto the left side. As you open that left hip, you have to use the other leg that remains straight as an anchor point so that the hips don't twist and turn. That way you'll get more benefit, you'll get more hip opening. And again, just making sure that that knee as it lunges is in a safe position, not going beyond the ankle, and absolutely tracking the foot, and in particular the second toe of the foot that is turned out. Inhale, ocean breath up from the ground. Exhale, ocean breath back down to the ground. This movement too becomes very meditative and calming as we become more familiar with it and with our lengthened, steady breath. So taking a moment and then coming into our final pose, which is a balance. And we're working on the heron. Just doing the arms first. Inhale, floating the arms up. Exhale, releasing the arms down. And if you can stand for this, if you're normally in a chair and you can stand with the support of the chair, that will clearly be much more helpful in terms of developing balance in your body, and that can be a really important skill to maintain as you get older. Otherwise, we're raising and lowering the arms and raising and lowering opposite legs with the breath, using or not using a chair as a support. Inhaling up from the ground being really important in balances, and the sense of grounding really helping us to maintain and develop balance. So just one more. And then you're going to release down into your mild inverted posture. So if you're working on the mat, something under the back of the head, if possible a yoga block under the hips, and the lower legs resting on the seat of your chair. And if you're staying in a chair and you have access to another chair, then literally put your feet up. And just take a few moments here to allow everything to settle, the breath, the body. Feel as if you are integrating all the practice you've done so far. Still inhaling up from the ground, and long ocean breath back down to the ground. Now we're coming into relaxation. If you're staying in a chair, treat it as a meditation and stay awake. Do come down to the mat or the floor, or lean against the wall if you can. Otherwise, if you're on the mat, take any comfortable position. Allow yourself to settle. Allow yourself to relax. And my colleague Leanne Antonia will now take you through the week 3 relaxation.
Once you're nice and settled, start to notice your natural breathing. Your inhale and exhale. Your natural inhale and exhale. Noticing your natural inhale and your exhale. The inhale and the exhale. Now direct your attention to your right heel. Feel the right heel on the ground. The right heel is on the ground. Breathe up from the ground through the right heel, and exhale ocean breath back down from the lungs to the right heel into the ground. Inhale up from the ground into the right heel, and exhale ocean breath from the right heel back down to the ground. Feel the touch of the right calf on the ground. The right calf is being supported by the ground. Breathe up from the ground into the right calf, and exhale ocean breath from the right calf into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right calf, and exhale ocean breath from the right calf back into the ground. Notice the right thigh. The right thigh is on the ground. Feel the back of the right thigh on the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right thigh, and exhale ocean breath from the right thigh into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right thigh, and exhale ocean breath from the right thigh into the ground. Notice the right buttock on the ground. Feel the touch of the right buttock on the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right buttock. And exhale, ocean breath from the right buttock into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right buttock. And exhale, ocean breath from the right buttock into the ground. Notice your left heel, the heel of the left foot. Inhale from the ground into the left heel, and exhale, ocean breath from the left heel into the ground. Notice your left calf. Notice how the left calf is supported by the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left calf. Exhale, ocean breath from the left calf back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left calf. Exhale, ocean breath from the left calf back to the ground. Notice your left thigh. Your left thigh is in contact with the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left thigh. Exhale, ocean breath from the left thigh into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left thigh. Exhale, elongated ocean breath from the left thigh back to the ground. The left buttock is on the ground. Notice the touch of the left buttock against the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left buttock. Exhale, ocean breath from the left buttock back to the ground. Inhale up from the ground into the left buttock. Exhale, elongated ocean breath from the left buttock back to the ground. The lower back may be on the ground or even slightly lifted away from the ground. Notice the contact between the lower back and the ground. Inhale from the ground into the lower back. Exhale, long ocean breath from the lower back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the lower back. Exhale, long ocean breath from the lower back into the ground. Notice the middle back. The middle back. The middle back is touching the ground. Feel the middle back in contact with the ground. Inhale from the ground into the middle back. Exhale, long ocean breath from the middle back into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the middle back. Exhale, long ocean breath from the middle back into the ground. Notice the upper back. The upper back is touching the ground. Feel the upper back supported by the ground. Inhale from the ground into the upper back. Exhale, ocean breath from the upper back into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the upper back. Exhale, long ocean breath from the upper back into the ground. Allow your attention to move to your right shoulder blade. You can feel the touch of the right shoulder blade against the floor. Inhale from the ground into the right shoulder blade. And exhale ocean breath from the right shoulder blade into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right shoulder blade. Exhale long ocean breath from the right shoulder blade into the ground. Gently move your awareness to your left shoulder blade, the left shoulder blade. Inhale from the ground into the left shoulder blade. Exhale long ocean breath from the left shoulder blade into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left shoulder blade. Exhale long ocean breath from the left shoulder blade into the ground. Now move your awareness to your right hand and feel the touch of the right hand on the floor. Breathe up from the ground into the right hand and breathe long ocean breath out of the right hand back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right hand. Exhale long ocean breath from the right hand back to the ground. The right forearm is on the ground. Notice the touch of the right forearm against the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right forearm. Exhale ocean breath from the right forearm into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right forearm. Exhale ocean breath from the right forearm back to the ground. Notice your right elbow. Your right elbow is on the ground. Feel the touch of the right elbow on the ground. Breathe up from the ground into the right elbow. Exhale ocean breath from the right elbow back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right elbow. Exhale ocean breath from the right elbow into the ground. Notice your right upper arm. Feel the touch of the right upper arm against the ground. Inhale up from the ground into the right upper arm. Exhale long ocean breath from the right upper arm back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the right upper arm. Exhale long ocean breath from the right upper arm back to the ground. Notice your right shoulder. The right shoulder is on the ground. Feel the right shoulder on the ground. Breathe in from the ground into the right shoulder. Exhale ocean breath from the right shoulder back to the ground. Breathe up from the ground into the right shoulder. Exhale long ocean breath from the right shoulder back to the ground. Notice your left hand. Your left hand. Inhale from the ground into the left hand. Exhale long ocean breath from the left hand back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left hand. Exhale ocean breath from the left hand back to the ground. Notice your left forearm and feel the contact of your left forearm against the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left forearm. Exhale ocean breath from the left forearm back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left forearm. Exhale, ocean breath from the left forearm back to the ground. Notice your left elbow. Feel the contact of your left elbow against the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left elbow. Exhale, ocean breath from the left elbow back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left elbow. Exhale, long ocean breath from the left elbow back to the ground. Notice the left upper arm. The left upper arm is in contact with the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left upper arm. Exhale, long ocean breath from the left upper arm back to the ground. Inhale up from the ground into the left upper arm. Exhale, long ocean breath from the left upper arm back to the ground. Your left shoulder is on the ground. Notice the touch of the left shoulder against the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left shoulder. Exhale, long ocean breath from the left shoulder back to the ground. Inhale from the ground into the left shoulder. Exhale, long ocean breath from the left shoulder back to the ground. Feel the touch of the back of the head on the ground. The back of the head is supported by the ground. Inhale from the ground into the back of the head and exhale ocean breath from the back of the head into the ground. Inhale from the ground into the back of the head and exhale ocean breath from the back of the head into the ground. The whole body is on the ground. The whole body is supported by the ground. Notice the touch of the whole body on the ground. The whole body is supported by the ground. Notice the touch of the whole body on the ground. Allow yourself to become aware again of your natural breathing. You can let go of your ocean breath and softly return to natural breathing. Noticing your inhale, noticing your exhale, noticing your inhales, noticing your exhales.
And now wriggle your toes, move your fingers and stretch your body in any way that feels good. And when you're ready, bend your knees, roll onto your side and come back up to sitting for our final breathing practice. So if you're used to working on the mat, you could sit cross-legged on a yoga block, just so long as your spine is upright and your posture is comfortable. Otherwise, come back into the chair where the rest of the class who've been working in chairs will be doing their breathing practice from. So take a moment to be aware of exactly how you feel after the class, after your relaxation, and then begin to reconnect to your breath and to this week 3 breath of breathing up and down from the ground, breathing up to the lungs from the ground, and doing a long ocean breath exhale back down to the ground. Really make these ocean breaths on your exhale as long and as smooth as possible, and feel as if they enhance your sense of connection down to the ground, down to the earth. Inhale through the nose up from the ground. Exhale through the nose, long ocean breath back down to the ground. And continue with this practice for a few more breaths at your own pace. And at the end of the next exhale, let that be the last breath in this breathing practice, and allow your breath just to return to its own natural rhythm, breathing in and out through the nose. Keep your eyes closed or downcast for a moment longer and take a final check-in with how you feel in your body, your breath and your mind, and in particular your sense of connection to the ground, your sense of foundation and steadiness in terms of your body and your mind. So that concludes the week 3 class. Thank you very much for participating in it. And just a reminder as usual that this program is all about developing the habit of a daily yoga practice. So your home practice is really vital if you're to make the lifestyle change and make the yoga tools that you're learning on this course work for you and fit in with you. So do practice as much as possible, ideally every day, but just fit it into your schedule. So it could be as short as 5 minutes, it could be as long as 10, 20 minutes, or even longer if you're using some of the video home practices that we've made available to you on the Yoga and Healthcare Alliance website. Don't forget you can register on the website as a patient if you want access to all our video resources, both posture practice and breathing practices. Thanks very much, and see you next time for the week 4 session.